Okay, before I go into the spill about TT, because she ends up telling me a whole bunch of stuff that was going on at that job too, where me, Claudia, and her work. But here's, like I said, here's how small my world is. Now, mind you, I'm just finding out Ben is married to this girl that's at my job that's catching an attitude with me. So the night that we're talking, I don't know how we was talking about his first baby mama too, how she didn't like her and how all the girls on her side are big, so she expected his daughter to be, chunky because that runs in his family too, which I thought that was weird because my dear, you're a hot dog away from being obese yourself. But anyways, I'm trying to be good. Trying so hard to be good. I am. But yeah, I found out that her brother also worked in the same place that we all was working at. Me, Claudia, and Titi. So I'm like, y'all see how small my world is? People don't know who I know. But anyways, getting back to TT, so me and TT end up becoming like friends, and she was the only person beside, because Tasha had stayed just around the corner from me when I had moved into the 2-bedroom, but she was the only one that knew where I stayed, and then TT knew where I stay at this point. So TT would come, and we would talk, and I would tell her like how how my daughter was, and she would always check on my daughter, the autistic one, because like she, like all the last 4, because they were so back to back, were all like problems, but because like she was autistic, and then her best friend had like around this time, I think she had like 2 or 3 autistic boys. So she knew, because of what her best friend would tell her about her best friend, about what, they used to go through with her 3 boys being autistic. And mind you, she wasn't a bad person, but she had her ways too. Like, that's why I ended up cutting her off too, because like I said, you can always tell when people talk about you when you get around their friends. And they showed me when I got around her friends, they showed me she talks about me. So when she would come, she would check on me, make sure I'm okay, because like I said, when I go incognito mode, like, I don't mess with nobody when I'm focused. Like, I don't be on social media. I literally be watching either documentaries, YouTube, episodes or whatever. That's when I started getting into Derek Grace II, and that's a whole story I'm gonna get into later. But yeah, she will always she was telling me really about a lot of tea that was going on at the job, just the same way Claudia used to. So another supervisor, name is Capel. He's gonna come up later in the story too. He was the real tall one with the dreads. All the girls was going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs over. And she was telling me how he ended up like leaving the job. He ended up starting the truck drive, but that's when he found his relationship with God. And because a lot of times when he was out in the road, he wouldn't know how he would feed himself, and it's something always, God basically made a way for him. So he became like this religious, which I was really surprised, because I don't know what about athletes, like you could tell who's been an athlete and who was a jock in high school just by the demeanor after they get out of high school. So he was one of those, because even when Claudia used to tell me about his demeanor and the way he would carry himself, it was like, because everybody have their little talks or whatever when they're at work. We all have discussions. So I remember, because Claudia had a crush on him too, how she was saying like he doesn't like when he marries, it's gonna be somebody that's all natural and that's gonna have a banging body, that's gonna look like this, that's gonna look like that. He described exactly what his wife is gonna look like. So when TT, like, like that's one of the stories she was spilling to me about him, going through that. And then he ended up getting with this lady that he ended up marrying. And she was friends with the new wife. So she ended up showing me her Facebook page. So when I seen her, I was like, oh, that's who he decided to marry? And she was like, why you say it like that? I was like, because the way he used to talk, like, I thought his wife was going to be a bad. This one don't look nothing like what he described he was going to marry. So I was like, he must have married her for her personality. Look, I'm not saying nothing about nobody. Well, yeah, I am saying stuff about people. It's for a reason. But I'm not saying I'm the most. I'm not saying I'm a dime. Even me loving myself, I know like I'm a 5 or 6. Even when I get dressed up, I know I'm a 7 or 8. But I know that about myself. So that's why I could say. So I see a little girl in the picture and I was like, oh, that's their daughter. She's like, no, she already had a daughter before he met her. I was like, oh. But I thought, and I shut my mouth. So then she goes to tell me, because like I said, everybody in that job was messing with each other. Married people was messing with single people up there. Some people was messing with the participants up there. But it was a lot of news about the gay people that was in there messing with each other and was messing with a lot of the straight people. So one of the dudes that she was close with, I'm going to call him Steven because he ended up like transitioning into Stacy. But when we were working together, he was Steven. So she was close with Steven and she and Steven always talk. So Steven ended up confiding in her that him and Junior, which is Claudia and Tasha's brother, used to mess around. And mind you, this is why I'm like, just be who you are. Like, the reason why they stopped messing around was because Junior ended up messing with, I'm gonna say Stacy because she identifies as a female now. But at the time, she was still Steven. So Junior ended up messing with Stacy's cousin. Now y'all think about, like, keep in mind at the time when Junior was messing with Stacy's cousin, Stacy was still Steven. Steven is saying at this time when he's like transitioning or whatever, that they had a full-blown on relationship. So my mouth dropped to the floor. Like, I know Junior. I've been around him since he was in high school. Like, he's never... But you know how I know it's true? Because before Steven became Stacy, he was one of the people that Junior was bringing around. And when Claudia was telling me, her mom got upset and said what she said in Creole in front, Steven was the one. She said it in front of, but in Creole. Because at that time, Steven was like flamboyant. Like, you could just tell Steven was gay.